have been enjoying the conversation, each and every week, week in and week out, what I'm saying as well. And listen, the goal now, 750 subs. We're making our way slowly but surely to that point. But we need your help and we need your assistance. So go ahead, man. Go ahead and like and subscribe to this video, to the channel, man, and show some love. With that being said, man, first and foremost, let me call up my co-host real quick. Man, how was your week? How was your weekend? Coach Carrie, man, let me know how you doing. I see Carrie ain't got no Kansas City hat on today, so you know.
Hey, we Monday night this time, so yeah, no Kansas City hat.
Okay.
And I almost wore this hat though.
I see the KJ in the background.
Oh wait, hold on. Well, you can't see it. Can you
Oh
see
no,
it?
listen, that. Oh no, sir.
You
No,
can't
it's not
see it.
showing up. That blur background is blurring. Okay, all right.
Oh, the background blurry, ain't it? Yeah.
So we cannot see anything that you're trying to show us right now.
Oh yes, you can.
There we
I
go.
almost had this hat on.
Oh,
I had it ready. It ain't. You see, it ain't tore up yet. But I was about to have this hat on. So
oh, he
I
looked
wanted to let y'all
upset.
know.
He looked pretty mad too.
But I got
Coach.
the Chiefs back there, so that's why I had the background. I didn't want y'all.
Oh, okay, yeah, because we don't want to see the Chiefs yet. Please put the background back up. We don't wanna see nobody. Coach, man, how was your weekend, man?
Man, had a good weekend. Had a chance to go out and watch my son team play. They were victorious once again. Had a chance to watch a lot of good HBCU football games. And then, ironically, we just had my wife is an engineer by trade. She's a member of Alpha Kappa Alpha and the Links chapter of Fort Bend County. And we had I'd say about maybe 30 young ladies, a few of them that go to school at Prairie View, a few high school students that are members of the National Society of Black Engineers. They just left the house a couple hours ago. So it's been a real good weekend, minus the sort of everything I had to do to get ready for them to come. But they had a great event at the house, and I'm looking forward to another good weekend of football. It starts Thursday. My son plays his last regular season game, so I'm looking forward to, wrapping up this week and catching some more good football.
Nah, that's what's up. Yeah, it's definitely always beneficial. You know what I'm saying? When the family straight. Hey, listen, this weekend has definitely been long
Yeah.
for your boy. Like this, really, I feel like the last week and a half, 2 weeks, man. I feel like I've just been tired. We had a youth conference this weekend from Friday to Sunday this morning. So definitely we're going over there with my church and with my son and also some of the youth group over the church, man. Today we actually got the pack. I think they said 25,000, you know what I'm saying, items, food items, boxes for that we're shipping over to Ukraine, you know what I'm saying, to help them in that effort. So that was really dope this morning to be able to be a part of that. And man, they had everything in order. Listen, you talking about looking for order. Listen, rice for humanity. Listen, them jokers orderly. All right, you know what I'm saying? We were filling them bags. We was moving like a machine in here. All right, look like back at the turn of the century, boys putting cars together or something down the assembly line. So, but it was super dope. You know what I'm saying, to be out there with the kids, man, and get a chance to do that, participate in that. So that was super dope effort this morning. The conference was great, right? Conference was great, man, throughout the whole weekend. So, shout out to Engage, man. Engage 24. Texas Youth, TX Youth, man. Shouts out to y'all for this weekend. But with that being said, y'all know how we do it. Listen, let's get straight into it. From week 10, listen, who's your biggest winner? Who is your biggest loser from week 10?
Man, my biggest winner, I'm gonna have to say Southern, because they stayed alive by the skin of their teeth in first place. And my biggest loser, oh man, I sort of want to say Grambling.
Mm.
I feel like it's somebody else out there that dropped one that no, yeah, I'll say Grambling just for argument's sake with my sister a little bit.
I know that's always good to have, you know what I'm saying, a Gremlin loss when you having those arguments, right? Because that kind of
Yeah.
gives you a leg up there. So that makes sense. Kerry, man, for you, who's your biggest winner and biggest loser from week 10?
The biggest winner, I had to go with Southern as well because they were able to keep pace, to keep themselves in first place, and My biggest loser would have to be Mr. Keep Mr. Get More 5 stars, Coach Maynard. They had it in hand. They
Yeah.
had
Yeah.
the game. They had that game, and I know this isn't a cussing show, but I'm sure he said some words that we can't say on this show. The Southern winner, that was an amazing touchdown. So I know he was not pleased. So it was a very methodical drive and the big play at the end. It was just, whew, that had to just really do something to him. So that's who I would go with.
Nah, that's definitely big, man. I'm gonna go in a different route, different direction. Biggest winner, I'm gonna say Bethune Cookman from this week. I think if you're talking about what they have dealt with, in the first half of this season, you know, Coach Raymond Woody, I think it's huge for him to finally get a win. And even if you say it's against a one and now what 4 or 1-3 Grambling team, right? At the end of the day, listen, for them to be able to get a win in the SWAC that's not named Valley or UEPB, I think it's huge for them, right? You know what I'm saying? To be able to finally, get in the win column, and actually show that, some of that momentum that they felt like they was feeling in year one, that they still kind of got a little bit of a hold of that, right? And maybe if they can kind of put things in order in these last 3-4 games at the end of the season, you feel good about the direction that they may be moving in going into next year. And then I'm gonna say biggest losers, Alcorn. I'm gonna say, man, not being able to figure out and kind of solve Alabama State, when kind of exactly what they're looking to do. Just turn around and hand off. Man, that's a tough one, right? When you're talking about already needing, a game against Southern, right? Because you took that loss there, and so not being able to keep pace with them and taking this loss, that's a huge loss for Alcorn this past weekend, for that. So those are my biggest winners and biggest losers from this past week. With that being said, man, I know there's some people out there who probably are thinking, well, I'm happy my team is not the biggest loser because maybe they're not an Alcorn or Southern. But listen, if you ain't got your own place to stay, listen, you losing already. All right, you know what I'm saying? So first of all, let me remind y'all that my man, Jeff McKissick, PV alum, Texas licensed loan officer with Fairway Independent Mortgage Company. He'll help you, he'll guide you seamlessly through the home buy process to make sure you're not the biggest loser. All right, you know what I'm saying? You can be the biggest winner, you know what I'm saying, if you allow him to help you to navigate this home buying journey. Many of us are unaware of our situations, but he'll help you develop a step-by-step plan to improve your financial standing, making your dream of owning a home achievable sooner rather than you think. He understands our financial situations may not be perfect, but it's okay. The sooner you start the conversation, the sooner you can solve the problems like credit issues or student loan debt. So don't let the fear, right, of achieving new heights hold you back from getting the home of your dreams. Perfect for your growing family and for hosting those TV watch parties. So get started now on taking the first step towards your new home and taking the next big step in your life. Don't delay. Talk with Jeff today so you can be in your home tomorrow. All right. So with that being said, man, I want to ask you, talking about some big moves, from this past weekend and some big games. Obviously, when you talk about the MEAC, I feel like that was the biggest game, you know, of all, right? But before we get that, just talk a little bit about, some of the other HBCU action. Tennessee State with a 28-21 loss to UT Martin. That's a really big hit that they took this past weekend. Had a chance and had everything in front of them to win that conference. Doesn't look like they're going to be able to do that now. But Eddie George has definitely, made a step forward, right? I feel like in that conference, still has a chance to finish, third or second, even possibly, right? So that would be big for the program. North Carolina A&T 45-7 loss to William and Mary. And then you had Hampton 2014 loss to Villanova, was in that game all the way to the end. And so, Hampton is looking like they're making some strides moving forward in the CAA, and just a little bit of a step back from where they need to be to really become an actual contender in that conference. Now, when we go over to the MEAC and talk about the scores from this past weekend, Howard with the 38-0 victory over Delaware State. I was not expecting that, but I didn't realize that their starting quarterback from the beginning of the year, Marquis, had been injured at Delaware State. So I'm sure that probably had a little effect on the game. And also Morgan State 38-37 over Norfolk in overtime. And so those two MEAC games are kind of now laying the groundwork. And obviously the big one was Thursday night. South Carolina State over North Carolina Central 24-21 in a game that, listen, I want that game for the next 10 years. All right. Give me Central. Give me South Carolina State. Give me Chennis Berry. Give me Trey Oliver. Oh, listen, I love it. I can't wait to see that matchup year in and year out. Did you guys get any chance to check out any of the MEAC games this past week? Were you guys able to watch that Thursday game or anything like that?
Yeah, I watched a good bit of it, and it was a good game. A couple big plays, swung momentum. Some people say the officiating swung momentum both ways because of either lack of control of the game or some spots that I think a lot of people said left a lot to be desired. I thought Coach, my man at Central, Coach Oliver, I thought he was going to have a stroke or get arrested on the sideline towards the end. And I understand what he was saying from a coach's standpoint. That ball, it looks short. It should have been measured or reviewed, and they didn't. Then they made him use a timeout. I think that's what made him so irate. So I think he was under the assumption that he still had one more timeout.
Right.
When he didn't, I think he was like, almost like, what the H y'all doing out here? So, but it was a very competitive game. I kept thinking that Central was going to come back and make a play to win it because they had chances down the stretch. And, unfortunate for them, South Carolina State made a play. And like I said, you can complain about coaches, but at the end of the day, there was a couple guys had a chance on that third and long and didn't just simply get the guy to the ground. And then you end up with a situation where things like that hurt you. But it was a great game, great atmosphere.
Yeah, that was an awesome game. Carrie, was you able to check it out?
Yes, I enjoyed that game. I was like, I know they only have 6 teams in that conference, but man, those two would be some bullies in our conference. I mean, from the big, strong-looking linemen to those receivers that could really catch, and that lefty, he could, man, the accuracy was just crazy, and it was a very enjoyable game. And I was like, of course, Northern. I thought at any time, well, NCCU getting ready to show what they really gonna do, but South Carolina State was not having it, and just the grit and the way I didn't want either one of them to lose. The way those teams played, wow, and I think that was a really, really good game. It's going to be interesting to see how things develop down the stretch. But, with only 6 teams, you don't have much margin for error. So when you lose, it's really tight.
No, it definitely is, man. You know what I'm saying? And so, hey, listen, you really kind of now, Central really needs 2, right, losses to hit, South Carolina State. And the unfortunate thing in the MEAC, you ain't got but 5 games, right? You know what I'm saying? So not like the SWAC where you're getting a lot of chances there, at that. Shouts out to Mr. Brandon Bell, you know what I'm saying? Officer Brandon Bell, 12. We should just call him 12. Shouts out to BB12, right? You know what I'm saying? Say he watching us from his squad car. You know what I'm saying? Shout out to Coach, man.
Yeah, bring it hard.
But hey, the thing that you're going to have to look out for, though, Morgan still has to play, I want to say, South Carolina State. Mm-hmm. So if all of them win out pretty much, you could end up with a 3-way tie, which has happened before in that conference. So I don't know what are the tiebreakers, but it could get real interesting down the line if Morgan puts it on South Carolina State later.
That's the good point, right? They still have an opportunity to see an outside shot, right, to get the job done. But yeah, I mean, hopefully, with those guys, the question is, can they just generate enough offense? Obviously, they got 38 points this past game. I mean, if they can, they're gonna need to score something like that if they gonna, probably beat South Carolina State, unless their defense just plays completely lights out. But they've had a couple games this year where I think the final score has kind of shocked a little bit to see how much they've kind of allowed, to allow on the board versus what we saw from them last year. You know what I'm saying? So I think it's definitely gonna be interesting.
Mm-hmm.
So, but yeah, man. With that being said, let's go ahead and move forward and check out and check out the SWAC this week. Obviously, when we talk about the SWAC, 6 games, all conference games, and we just run through Southern over Alabama A&M 25-20, had Jackson over UAPB 41-3. Of course, Bethune Cookman beats Grambling 24-21. PV beats Mississippi Valley 17-16. Texas Southern with the loss to FAMU 52-28, and then Alcorn State with the loss at Alabama in Mobile against Alabama State 21-17. Let's start off at the top. I mean, Southern 25-20 over Alabama A&M. Coach, what was your thoughts on this game, and how was Southern able to pull this one out down, pretty much throughout the whole game, but able to keep it close, right? Obviously pull out the victory late.
The quarterback got hot the second half and just made not only him, but he had a tight end that had 2 real good one-hand catches. And I had to go somewhere, so I listened to the Southern radio broadcast, and one of the guys late in the game was just talking about, let's just run the clock down and kick a field goal and you walk it off. Well, next thing he was like, don't pass the ball, don't pass. And when the guy caught the one-handed catch for a touchdown, the whole thing just changed. So it was T-Set got hot. And, both of those quarterbacks can run hot and cold, but it's amazing how well he played and the ball placement that he had in the second half. So, unfortunate for the Bulldogs, they dropped one. But, like I say, if you leave Southern in a game, man, there's a good chance you're going to lose that Southern gun.
Yeah. At this point, right, it's showing that over and over again this happened this year where if you kind of don't put this team away, they're going to figure out a way to get the job done. Mr. Carey, what did you think about Southern's resilience again, another time in this game against Alabama A&M? And how do you feel about Alabama A&M not being able to stretch that lead and really kind of put the game away when they had jumped out early, right, to take that early lead?
Yeah, unfortunately, it was almost like they played almost like they thought they had a comfortable lead. And like Coach Northern said, you don't let them hang around because I don't think Alabama's that far from Louisiana, so I'm pretty sure they brought the chicken foot with them. So,
and they have them somewhere in Alabama, at a Piggly Wiggly or something you can find.
At the Piggly Wiggly, that's right where they are. See, and they put a little whatever they put on it, and they have it out there. And I'm telling you, it was insane because T-Set kind of reminded me of a Trigger Man that was at Alcorn. That guy was just slippery at the end. And if he got just a piece of, I'm telling you, a different quarterback, they would have lost that game. Mm-hmm. He just really played with some grit at the end. And I think that's what really pulled it. I wasn't even sitting there pulling for Alabama A&M, but at the end, I was like, oh, y'all got to stop him. And he was just slipping away and just getting just enough opening to do what he needed to do. It was they definitely pulled the chicken foot out on him, and along with T-Set, he really played.
Oh man, like Southern, how many these chicken feet don't get used up? Like what? I'm sure, like you can use it multiple times or something. I'm not understanding, right? I thought it was like a one-time use you got to throw away, but this is like a repeat use. They just got to wash it or something and bring it with you. Like what's going on, man? But they're definitely able to pull it out again, man. 25-20 victory. And listen, they they have the 1-game lead over Alcorn. Now Grambling is pretty much out the race. UAPB now is taking another loss. Texas Southern taking another loss. You got the tiebreaker over Prairie, who also got 3 losses. At this point, really, I think 2 games, 2 out of the last 3, and it's really over, right? You know what I'm saying? And so, they got an opportunity really to kind of put this away. They got Bethune-Cookman coming up, and then I think they got UAPB and Grambling last, right? So they have a chance to kind of start really putting teams away, win after win now, moving forward, putting the teams away officially, right? Not this unofficial stuff, like officially, right? You know what I'm saying? And V is letting us know the more older it is, the more potent it is. We're not gonna ask her how she knows it though.
How does she know?
Hey, them Louisiana roots up, man.
I'm from North Louisiana, but this is a Christian show. We don't believe in that. You feel me? So, y'all gonna have to jump on V channel to find out about that. But yeah, man. So let's keep it moving. Arkansas, Pine Bluff, Jackson. It's kind of a wash, right? 41-3.
Yeah.
I thought that Jackson would obviously win this game comfortably, but I did think UAPB would score a little bit. So did that shock either one of you guys that UAPB was not able to get going offensively at all?
It definitely did me. I thought it was going to, they would be able to put up a little bit more of a fight. I probably need to look because I didn't see any of that game. Look at the stats and see how many receptions my man had, and then what was the quarterback's passing numbers looking like. But like I said, if Jackson State could line up and play that gangster defense, they hard to beat.
Yeah.
That gangster defense will get you, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I expected more scoring, but you know what happened in that game that got me? Their defense played, their quarterback, he could be elusive and slippery, but the bad thing, and it's because he's young, he goes too far backwards. And our defense did him the same way Jackson State did, but for some reason, whatever adjustment we made or they made, he didn't keep doing that. But Jackson State was able to keep him off his mark. And when he's off his mark, it's tough for him to make those throws because our defense had him, where our defensive ends were disciplined and kept him boxed in. And then our tackles were going straight up and chasing him straight back. When he did that, he wasn't successful. But I don't know if the defensive ends quit squaring off or we quit getting the push up the middle. And I think it was when we played them, we stopped getting the push up the middle because the offense kept putting the defense back on the field too much, and they were getting tired. And then he was able to stay on his mark a little more. But because he's young, he goes the wrong direction, and that's what Jackson State was doing to him, and it was making those reads harder. And that's why, because he completed some passes, but he had a lot of throwaways from the part of the game I watched.
Okay.
No, just trying to get away, you know what I'm saying, from the Jackson front four. So they were able to do a good job of controlling that line of scrimmage and not really giving him the lanes he's used to.
Yeah.
So keeping it going, Bethune-Cookman Grambling, 24-21 victory for Bethune-Cookman. Grambling was able to jump out. I believe they jumped out to it was either 10-0 lead or 14-0 lead in this game. But listen, Bethune slowly but surely got back in that game, took the lead, and put the game away. And I think, these are one of those games where you go down to Daytona way out east, in Florida, and you don't realize, when people not paying attention, what can happen to you, down there. And Bethune was able to get this victory. Any thoughts on this game from either of you regarding, Grambling and, if people are really not happy with Coach Dooley, like Coach say, right? You're always looking for somebody, right? You know what I'm saying? Grambling ain't got the chicken feet, so they can't blame it on that. You know what I'm saying? So they gotta find something else to put it on. So, but what was your thoughts about this game, man? And why couldn't Grambling kind of keep that lead and put the game away?
Well, I think part of it is defense not getting the turnovers that they were getting early in the season.
Mm-hmm.
They were playing with the second team quarterback, and it's not like Miles was setting the world on fire, but sometimes they gave up. I saw they gave up one long play in maybe the middle of the fourth quarter. And, when you get a play like that can spin that momentum a whole lot in one direction. But that's definitely surprising. But you thought that coming into the season, Bethune was going to be better, and they are playing better. But at the same time, I never thought I'd see Grambling with this many losses at this time of the season.
Yeah, it's so interesting when you look at the stats, right? That Cam Ransom didn't start this game for Bethune-Cookman, but actually Luke Sprague actually got hurt, early in the game. I think it was the first quarter, actually. But when you look at the stat line, man, total between both of them, they went 23 of 27, right? 5 of 7 for Luke Sprague, 18 of 20 for Cameron Ransom, which I would not expect that a quarterback at Bethune-Cookman would throw for a percentage like that, completion percentage like that. And that was 199 yards and 2 touchdowns. What was it that, if you guys saw the game, I couldn't really figure out what Grambling was trying to do, to really kind of keep him from beating them. And at the end of the day, right, you didn't expect him to beat you with his arm, right?
Yeah.
but
Right.
man, it's like he really just got the job done at the end of the day. I mean, did you see anything that you feel like Grambling could have did differently? You know what I'm saying, especially from that back four, in the secondary to kind of change the trajectory of what his game went.
Well, the game was, I think, like Coach Northern said, without the turnovers. See, the Grambling has had during the beginning of the season, they had fool's gold to me.
Mm.
And I think the offense, and not blaming Coach Dooley, but I think the offense was not as potent as they really thought it was. And but I think also in that game as well, without Crowley, the offense just moved different. And then they ended up playing what I think BCU prefers, a ugly game. Them
Yeah.
and Valley are real similar, especially on their home turf. They like an ugly game. They want you to get mauled. They want to lull you to sleep, and then they just pop you at the surprise plays. And the backup quarterback came in and played because I didn't get to see much of the first quarter, but when I wanted to dry my tears from the Prairie View game, I would turn to the BCU game, and so I'm sitting there because it would cheer me up to see Grambling losing. So that's why I kept turning back to that game. So that's how come I kind of knew what was going
That's
on
funny.
because I was too depressed watching the Prairie View game. So I was that was just a typical that's how BCU beat Valley. They just uglied it up, and the backup QB was just so efficient that kept them from they minimized their mistakes. And I think when BCU minimizes their mistakes and
Hmm.
penalties, they're tough to deal with. So I think that's kind of what kind of caught Grambling by surprise.
Yeah, for you, coach. I mean, did you see anything that Grambling could have did different defensively with Ransom that could have maybe shaken him up a little bit more? But it was like, man, he was just he was. I mean, he just getting the ball to the guys and letting them work.
Yeah, now I did not actually see any of that game, so I
Okay.
can't speak on what they could have done. But the numbers were pretty similar. I think Grambling had two turnovers and Bethune
Hmm.
only had one. But it is, it's one of those games. Like I say, it gets ugly if you look at it from a certain way, it can still be a good football game because of the score. It was close, but if you look at the stats, it don't look like a well played game with the
Hmm.
passes, close to 50%. Uh, like I say, he was calling it fool's goal. And man, I tell people, man, defensive touchdowns count. When you get the ball closer to your goal line, the more likely it is for you to score. So that's a
Right.
big part of football is getting a turnover and turning those turnovers into immediate points or a short field, so the numbers can look distorted. But it seemed to be a good game if you're a Bethune fan. But if you look at it, it does look like an ugly game in terms of pass completions, turnovers, and different things like that.
No, that is definitely true. End of the day, Gramblin's defense has been played offense right early in the year. They
Yeah.
haven't been able to generate offense from the defensive standpoint, and that's kind of why they are where they are right now. Moving on, man. FAMU over Texas Southern, 52-28. This one was never really in question. FAMU up 21-0 at halftime, and also reel out another 31 points in the second half with Texas Southern putting up 28 points in the second half as well. They was, I know they were happy to, see feel, feel like they were able to get it rolling a little bit, right? Of course, 111 rushing yards for Texas Southern, only 53 passing yards, so a total yardage of 164 for Texas Southern this past game, and they only had one turnover. Actually, won the turnover battle as FAMU had two interceptions thrown. Texas Southern only had one thrown. But man, not gonna win a lot of games with only
Now,
164 yards of offense, right? So that's gonna be real tough to do. FAMU looked like they took out their frustrations on Texas Southern. Hopefully they good, right? You know what I'm saying? It's like when you and your friend, you and your partners got in trouble, or you and your really when you and your siblings get in trouble, right? You come in, you like, man, hopefully by the time mama get to me or daddy get to me, they arm tired because Because listen, they're like, oh man, they got I'm third in line, right? You know what I'm saying? Hopefully by that time she good and done, right? Or maybe she got to switch to that left hand. You know, that left hand is the same as the right hand. Because listen, FAMU is coming to Prairie View next week, and hopefully they got it all out their system. Because Jackson have made them mad, and now they came home to take it out on everybody, right? You know what I mean? But
Yeah. Hey,
trust me,
real quick, man. Man, one time me and my brother, my mother was an educator. Me and my brother got in trouble on the same day at school. Man, my dad had put it on us so long. So our bedroom was upstairs. Man, he sent us downstairs to fix him a pitcher of water and brought it back up to him and finished whooping us.
oh no, he whooping y'all, and he make y'all go get the water
hey,
for his break.
hey, it was good and hot up there. We had to go get some water for him.
Listen, that's that old school parenting we need around right now with all these
Yeah.
kids acting crazy in these school systems.
You
Okay,
acting crazy. Yeah.
that's what we need right now, right now. All right, you know what I'm saying? I know y'all know what we talking about. All right, that's why
Yeah.
y'all, that's why none of y'all in the comments have said anything. Y'all scared y'all parents probably see y'all making the comment about what happened to y'all.
Yeah,
You feel me? And listen, my grandmother, she would send us outside to get switches. That's back when it was like she getting the switches off the tree. Don't bring her no switch.
yeah. That
Don't
ain't
bring her
the
no
same.
switch that ain't switching. If you
Yeah.
get what I'm saying,
Don't
right?
work. You in
You
trouble.
got to go out there and get it.
Yeah.
First of all, she not gonna clean it properly. All right, so it's gonna be worse. It might still have a couple of leaves on there. It's like, oh man, it's gonna be trouble. So you better make sure you getting what you were sent out there to get, or it's gonna be trouble. But listen, hey, after one or two of them times, listen, come home, do your work, get to your room as quick as possible. All right, you know what I'm saying? It
Yeah,
teach you some lessons. It's almost like we need some switches around here. You know
yeah.
what I'm saying, with some of the stuff we've been seeing, but that's another conversation for another time. But that's all in our head. It's still there. I'll let y'all done did to us. It's still right there, man. All right, so moving on, man, for Florida A&M. So hopefully they got their belt, at their system. But last game, Alcorn State versus Alabama State. This was a 21-17 victory, Alabama State over Alcorn State. When you look back at this game, man, 7-7 at the end of the first half. With two touchdowns coming in the second quarter. Then it was 14-10 at the end of the third quarter. Alabama State had the lead. And then, of course, they end both scoring a touchdown in the fourth quarter. And Alcorn never being able to get into the end zone, after that. Now, one thing that was pretty interesting, right? You did see Alcorn make a QB change, right? And switch from, Xavier Vaughn, who they've been leaning on, these last weeks, right? And brought in Trey Lawrence, to play QB. I mean, what was it there? Do you feel like maybe Coach, Thomas was trying to do or seeking to do? Because it seemed like they've been leaning on Xavier Vaughn, and outside of that Southern game, they've really been able to get by with his athleticism. With
Mhm.
the mix of him kind of getting the ball out to playmakers, especially Truck Griffin, in the passing game. I mean, what would make him make this decision right now in this Alabama State game when you were 3-1 with this guy in conference?
Yeah.
Why won't you give him a chance to kind of see if he can kind of take you to a victory here against Alabama? Because the game was never like completely out of reach, right? So it's not as if it's not there for the taking.
I think sometime as a coach, you're just looking for a different spark. If you look at the numbers, his numbers wasn't bad, but he did have an interception with no touchdown. So it may have been like sometimes a quarterback sees the game different from everybody else. So you may just pull a joker and say, look at man, just look at this series, listen to the play call, and think about what would you do in this situation. Sometimes you may have him tell you, all right, you heard the huddle call. Tell me what you would do in this. What are you looking at? And if he don't say the right thing, his mind is somewhere else. So
Mm,
that may be one thing. But I tell you what, despite the numbers, that doggone number one from Alabama State is a football playing Jesse on. I mean, I should know his name by heart by now, but he was in the backfield getting
yeah,
sacks and tackles for loss. Then you look, he back deep at safety making on the hash making safety. So they play like say defense will travel, but Alcorn is not hitting home. And I think they probably need to, I would say go back to some more design runs for him some
Mhm.
midline.
Yes.
They had a package where they would go trips, and that's to me the hardest formation to defenses. They go trips and they run the zone read one way, and they got numbers outside. No matter how you cut it up, it makes you play a certain way. And I hadn't seen them do that in a while, or get
Mhm.
back to just that series. So I think either they go simplified or make it to where simplify the receiver and just simply run the quarterback more if he can't get it to some of those receivers. But that was another. It was a low scoring, well played football game. Came down to a Hail Mary that was a couple feet short. But I enjoyed watching that. That was, like you said,
Okay.
it didn't look the best, but it was a great foot from a defensive guy standpoint. It was some good football being played.
Rodney makes the comment here. Vaughn has not developed as a passing quarterback throughout the chances he's been given this season. So
Yeah,
that's his thoughts
Yeah,
on
I can see that.
him. Go ahead, Mr. Carey.
Yeah, I said I can see that because the games they did win, he was pretty tough to contain on that edge. And like I said on the previous show, if he can get going, he runs like a gazelle, and he's really tough to bring down. And Alabama State had the defensive ends that could keep him contained, and they set the edge pretty good in that game. And that once you took that away, the game was difficult for them,
Mm,
and they
yeah.
had just enough offense to you know get the score that they needed to win.
Well, I think I mean, it's similar to what Alabama State is trying to do with Key now. I think you just have to figure out a way to one, control the line of scrimmage and and run the ball on the ground, and then put your QB in a position to where he can make some easy throws to some guys in space and let them kind of go to work because then you give yourself a chance to kind of still be able to use right his athleticism because at the end of the day he's so dynamic.
Mhm.
That you want to have this guy on the field. I mean, you're 3-1 because he was their quarterback for you, essentially playing almost like an extended running back, extra running back position, right? So at the end of the day, man, you got to kind of get Xavier Vaughn on the field because he's kind of helped you to be where you are now, right? If you're all corn. So with that being said, man, let's move on. Last game from this past week, Prairie View versus Mississippi Valley. 17-16 victory for Prairie View. It's 3-0 at the end of the second quarter. Obviously, Mississippi Valley went up 10-3 at the end of the third quarter. And then, of course, the two touchdowns for Lamar J. McDowell in this game to win 17-16. Valley did score with a minute 47 less. 24-yard pass from Tijerian Williams. But the 2-point failed. It was called back, right, because of holding. Otherwise, they would have got that, and then they had the bad snap on the extra point attempt after that, and so Prairie View gets out with the 17-16 victory. Coach, from your thought process, man, you are 0-18 on foreign conference. Do you like that call right there to go for two to win that game, or do you say, man, let's take it into overtime and try to win it in overtime? What's your thoughts?
I probably would have said I don't have anything to lose, so let's go for two. A lot of people look at it. If you play for the tie. If you're on the road, you play to get it over with right then and there. But like say you looking at it, you got momentum because you were up pretty much the whole game. You lost the momentum, then you come back and score late. So you think, okay, we'll pull this thing out. And unfortunately for them, they didn't get it. But I probably would be more on the side of man. I ain't got nothing to lose. I may even ask one of my players before I make the decision myself. Say, hey man, I may ask the seniors or ask my starting quarterback, what you think about going for it right here. I may ask, just somebody randomly that I really trust on the team, what they think, and go from there and you know see what happens.
Nah, it makes sense. I mean, it kind of really you look at it, they until that fourth quarter, they really had the momentum, right? You know what I'm saying? And so I can definitely understand them at that place kind of going for it. I mean, really, if that call don't get called back, right, they're in a good position, right? You know what I'm
Yes.
saying? So
Yes,
really the call itself it wasn't a bad call. It was that
not at all.
had that penalty, then obviously just a bad snap, right? Otherwise, it's 17-17 and you're going in overtime. Mr. Carey, what was your thoughts on this game overall? And listen, I'm just gonna be honest, right? When I
Okay.
saw when I saw on Instagram, they said we wearing all white, and then they came out with white
with the
uniform,
purple
purple
helmet.
helmets. I said, listen, it ain't about to this ain't about to
This
be
ain't
good.
good.
You know what I'm saying? We already ain't communicating well. Okay. You know what I'm saying? Like the football account don't know what the equipment manager doing. The equipment manager don't know what the coach is doing. Everything off. All right. The last time that happened, we took an L. Right. I think what he
Right.
said, I think we went all white, and then we came out with purple helmets and purple pants. Like
Sure
so,
did.
that was an L against UAPB. So I was like, this one ain't going well. This one ain't gonna go well, right? Listen, Jerry, we are starting off bad. Y'all don't even know what we wearing. We in trouble. Okay.
Yeah,
After I saw that, I'm like, yeah,
we were all worried when we saw
this
those
ain't
helmets.
about to go well, right? But what's your thoughts, man, on the game overall?
Well, I have an interesting tidbit that Coach Northern will enjoy. Shout out to my frat brother Joe Kelly because he drove up there to the game. But Valley did an interesting thing with this evening game. What they did is they put Prairie View on the home side. And because of the way the sun set, because I was wondering why the plays took so long and sometimes we didn't have the right players on the field. When you turn to look at the bench, the sun is directly in your eyes. Mm-hmm. So you can't see what they're doing over there on the bench, and it delays you getting the plays, and it's real difficult to get the calls. That's why sometimes when they tried to speed up the offense, they just couldn't because the sun was directly in their face. And I said, that's a good strategy that they have to make, because Valley always has, since they don't have a crowd, they have other things as their home field advantage. It used to be the tall grass and the man-sized mosquitoes, but but that sun in the eye was genius. And he told me we really struggled with that. And of course, being in Mississippi, you struggle with the refs because that long pass play to number 6 that I kept screaming all game, know where he at.
Yeah.
But on that pass play, the it was either the guard or the center. But he held our guy by the face pass. He almost pulled his helmet off, and he almost pulled his jersey off with the hold right in front of the ref. And that's how come the quarterback had that extra second to get that ball off, because he would have got smashed. And the guy was probably like, I'll take the penalty to keep my quarterback from getting messed up. And that's what set up, one of the first scoring drives. So Mississippi, and Coach Northern probably knows, playing up there is, you're playing the refs too. And I remember at the beginning of the game, one of the refs, looking at Coach McDowell, and I don't know if it was at him, but it was at our bench, and he was yelling at somebody. Sure. And I said, we're in trouble, because and not long after that, they ignored that holding and face mask. So I was surprised they called that holding on the extra point, but it was pretty obvious. And I'm like, Coach Northern, with that record, I think that was their 12th game. That would have been ended up being their 14th loss in a row. So at that point, I'm doing whatever. I would have lined up a tackle eligible and told him to do a down and out. I don't know. I would have done anything on that 2-point conversion because we're going for it. There is no question. I don't want no overtime. Just win it right here and send them on bad. And as you saw in our little group chat, I said, they look forward to Prairie View being their feel-good game because no matter how good we are, they're just a struggle for us. And they know that. And it's almost like mentally, we won that game, but mentally they still have our number.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's really interesting, man. Just to see kind of, and that game started off really slow, right? You know what I'm saying, on both sides, right? Seemed like neither one of the teams, right, could get really going. And that made it really difficult at the end of the day. But when you talk about, what Valley's able to do, no turnovers for them this game, and only 6 penalties for 49 yards. PV 6 penalties for 65 yards, and also the turnover. So obviously it put them in a prime position to be able to win the game. Anytime you win a turnover battle, right, you're in great position to win the game. Was finally able to see something on the ground, right? I think we averaged 5.3 yards a carry, 212 yards total. Lamar J. McDowell, 21 carries this game, 130 yards, 2 touchdowns, right? So he finally had a chance to really get rolling these last 2 weeks. And so it's really good to see, starting to create some holes from an offensive line standpoint. But at the end of the day, man, you're not able to produce as many points as you want in order to really put this game away early. And so you got to sweat it out. And yeah, Rodney, I believe from what I hear, Cooley's going to take a medical red shirt. So and so he'll have a chance to still have those 2 years of eligibility. But um, any other thoughts, man? From this game, I know also Jaden Johnson, 14 to 23, 170 yards. Tajarian Williams was 16 to 24 for 287 yards and 2 touchdowns. It just seems like Prairie could get no pass rush, going right. I feel like a part of that could be that Williams is a guy who they use a lot in the run game. So it kind of makes you kind of wait a second, right, to see what he's gonna do. But man, it seems like it's been real difficult to create a consistent pass rush up front. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And obviously, if you can't get pressure on QBs, man, you're gonna be in trouble. Brandon Bell, you know what I'm saying? 12 is saying we soft up front. You know what I'm saying? So hey, we need 12, like 12, right? We probably need an extra man. You know what I mean? I guess that's what we need, right? You know what I'm
Well,
saying?
we need number 45 to come back, Adrian Hamilton, and show him how to be tough, because that was one mean guy off the edge.
Yeah.
And he was sack master. And I don't understand how we just don't get that kind of push anymore. And it's scary because the Valley quarterback is a version of the quarterback we're about to see this weekend. He's thick in the middle, but he'll run, and he's not scared to run it. And that's what'll throw you off, because you concentrating on him possibly coming up that middle and running, but then he don't run, and he throws out a decent pass, because we made their wide receivers really look all world, because they really had us off balance, and it doesn't help. And no knock against the OC, but sometimes we overthink our red zone trips. I think that's what really kept Valley in the game. We went for three for some times. We should have got the first. It's not that hard. I would really like to. He got some good touches this game, but I really would like to see McDowell get some touches other than when it's 3rd and 2, because it's obvious. I'd like to see him, get some of those first down touches, and he surprisingly to me, for him to be the biggest guy out there, 230 pounds, he can really catch. And I'd like to catch some people off guard, sending them to the flat wheel route or something like that, then come back and running, just to keep them on their toes, instead of just 3rd and 2. And now here he comes. They load the box on him. And
Yeah.
he's a lot better to me, I think, than what we're giving him a chance to show.
No, for sure. And I think when he gets those multiple carry games, right? 10 plus touches, we're definitely seeing that. So with that being said, man, we're gonna go into everybody's favorite segment. You know what I'm saying? Talking about Northern Lights, right? And then after that, we'll break down this upcoming game. I see some people's already asking about it. It's in the chat. We're gonna talk about that, but we want to give the spotlight now to Coach Northern to talk specifically about these Northern.
All right, so this this week I'm gonna talk about some of the stuff that happens between referees and coaches, umpires. Some of the things that I've dealt with on a personal level, or people affiliated with me. So I'll start back. My dad was a coach, so it would be some funny conversations that I would overhear from time to time. And as a youngster, I played baseball, and we go and play an all-star game. I think it was 13U in right outside of Gonzales, Louisiana. So that's about the halfway spot between Baton Rouge and New Orleans. And man, our team from Baton Rouge, we pull up in 2 or 3 cars, and we sit in the parking lot, and a couple other cars pull up. Why in the world was the umpire that's doing the game? He pulled up with like 3 or 4 players from the other team, and throughout the game, he would be calling them by their nickname. So he may say something like, Iron Man, you can't do that. Pig head, leave me alone. Stop talking back. Listen to, it was like he basically was an extension of the coaching staff out there. So, moving forward to some stuff for the coaches and referees almost having a social on Friday night. So it's some legendary stories of coaches back in the day, maybe having a little bit too much to drink, referees having a little bit too much to drink with coaching. It's some alleged stories that one coach and another coach got into a fight because one coach had drank too much of the other coach's quote unquote good liquor the night before. Also, a coach threatened a referee, basically saying, like, hey man, I know it wasn't just you at that hotel room. Almost like, I'm gonna tell your wife you calling a better game than what you calling right now. So that's and I say that's in the 70s and 80s. That didn't just happen. So I know some people probably out there trying to figure out what coaches it was or all that, but this happened a while ago. But I'm I got like I said good sources on the happenings that happen with those referees. Um, Now going forward in the SWAC, like each school used to pay the referees, and I was in the conference at a time where they made the schools stop paying the referees at half times because one school fans saw, just say if we were playing at Alabama State, they saw the referees getting paid by somebody from Alabama State at halftime of the game. So the fans allegedly reported cheating or the referees being paid, but that was their regular game check that they got from the school. So the school, the SWAC, told them, look, we can't do this. We're not paying people at halftime. So, we got to change the way that we're doing this. And, a lot of this came up because of what happened with Mickey Joseph and, what he said about the BS calls and all that kind of stuff. Well, one year when I was at Prairie, this same thing pretty much happened with Coach Frazier. He basically said either they cheating or they incompetent because we were not getting calls when we would play against the Southern, the penalty might look like 15-3 in favor of Southern. When we play Grambling, it might be like a 12-2, stuff like that. So it was some things like that he said that was very similar. Now, Coach Frazier got fined and suspended for a game. But a lot of people didn't know, I guess, because me and him looked alike. I coached, I think it was homecoming. May have played Mississippi Valley one year, and I ended up being a quote unquote head coach at Prairie View, and we won against. Ironically, it was Mississippi Valley. I'm pretty sure that's who it was that we played. While Coach Frazier was suspended, so he came on campus for that game, and he couldn't come to the team after a certain point of time. So he had to basically stay in his office. We couldn't communicate with him, and we ended up winning that game. But that's a whole lot that goes back to him calling out the referees for making calls, either not making calls for his team. Uh, the other thing that happened, and I'll probably end with this one. So I'm the head coach at Prairie View, and I called the director of officials. So I'm showing him some film. Like the ball was obviously we running the ball. The kid from Prairie View gets on the opposite side. I'm gonna just say the 35-yard line. Well, when a ball is spotted, it's probably spotted on like the 34 or 33. So I say, look, man, this has happened multiple times to me and my kids. So I say something disparaging. I say, look, man, this little sawed off joker over here keep making these bad spots. So lo and behold, why was it the head of officials' son that was the sawed off joker that was spotting the ball wrong? He tried to go into the mechanics of it. But the other thing that people don't realize, these guys are not just SWAC referees. So I look up a couple years later, and this guy is doing like the XFL games, the UFL games, and stuff like that.
Mm.
But that game, he had a bad game, and like I said, I called him out on it. But look, I never knew that was that man's son, and I have to go back and apologize about calling that joker a sawed off son of a gun. But I end it right there because look, if I get back into coaching in the next couple of years, it might be a joker that remember this. Like, man, you remember Northern said that, but that I never say nothing else about a joker being sawed off again. So I'll leave it at that.
Man, listen, the real life referee I can't believe you said back in the day somebody was like, "Listen, I know you ain't go to the hotel room by yourself, so tomorrow I'm gonna
Hey,
need you."
I get if you talk to some of the older guys that played, I say so. I've played in mid 90s. If you could talk to some of them older guys that played in the 70s, hey man, it's some stories. Hey, if you ever get a chance, talk to like a Doc Mays or somebody like that. He was a trainer
Mhm.
at Prairie View for a long time. I bet, man. And don't talk about if you get some of them jokers a cup of Crown Royal, not even a bottle, and just let the stories flow.
Man, listen, I know Mr. Kerr has seen his share of games where he already felt like there was some conversation between coach and referees because he always talks about the reservation. So, you know what I'm saying?
Oh yeah, the reservation. Yeah, we had some interesting calls up there. Oh, I'm sorry, having camera drama today. But yeah, we've had some interesting calls up there. But and back when Prairie View first started winning, nobody wanted to lose to Prairie View. So if you really wanted to see some good calls, they really tried to beat us up then because they just couldn't believe it when things started turning around. They're like, well, they're not supposed to be able to score. No, we're calling that back. Somebody was holding.
Uh-huh.
And you can look at some of the old Prairie View videos, especially when Coach Frazier was here. You see him going, or jump up in the air and keep it. Yeah, the
But you know
refs
what?
were.
Honestly,
Yeah,
I feel like it hurt us more on the defensive side of the ball than on the offensive side of the ball because if people could get away with holding and passing the ball while they downfield, it's almost like what do you tell your defensive players? But on the offensive side of the ball, it's obvious when a guy false starts.
Mhm.
But it's sometimes it's hard to throw a holding penalty, or the referee say, "Man, that didn't have anything to do with the play." But like, man, we got to buy this dude to New Jersey because they
Right.
pulling on him so much.
Right. No,
yeah.
listen, that's real. And I mean, at the end of the day, right? Hey, listen, these penalties make change the momentum of the game. I mean, we talking about this past game against Valley, right? You know, those two screen plays that went for, I mean, long yardage, put you in scoring position, both called back because of holding penalties, right? Regardless of whether it was holding or not. The point is, right, that's what I mean, penalties change the momentum of games, right? So super interesting though to hear some of these stories, man. Hey, listen, sometimes you got to just make statements like Frazier make and like Joseph make at the end of the day, right? You just got to,
Yeah, you
like
do.
Joseph said, hey, listen, I got the money to pay the fine. It's going to be okay, right? You know what I'm saying? Because sometimes you just got to remind people that I see you, I'm watching you. That's just a phantom call, right? You know what I'm saying? And you got to kind of get that point to get the respect that you feel that you should be getting, right? You know what I'm saying? Not like calling in your favor per se, right? But like, hey, call it even. However you gonna call it the same way, no matter what, right? You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? So yeah, man. So one of our guys had to get a New Jersey because they ripped it.
Yeah,
Still didn't get the call, man. Still didn't get the call. But man, we appreciate you. And again, I remind y'all, man, we got a Northern Lights coming up that you guys is not gonna
Oh
want to
no,
miss.
that's
I'll let
gonna be
y'all know ahead of time, right? When we gonna do that show. Because we
ready.
gonna do a Northern Lights on SWAC head coach firings. Y'all,
Woo.
y'all not gonna want to miss that one, all right? You know what I'm saying?
Uh-uh.
It is head coach firing season is approaching. Okay.
Woo.
We know it's been some U-Hauls already being reserved today. Okay. So we're gonna talk about that in the future, man, and let Coach Northern spill the beans on it. But we'll let y'all know ahead of time when we're gonna have that very special Northern Lights toward the end of this season, man. So y'all make sure y'all bring y'all popcorn for that one, because that one gonna be interesting. We're gonna have to just take a big chunk of the show, you know what I'm saying? And listen, get the boards out. Yeah, you're gonna have to take a big chunk of the show, you know what I'm saying, and let him
Oh,
go and get on that one, right? You know what I'm saying? Get your popcorn, you know what I'm saying, get your caramel popcorn, you know what I mean? Go and get your little Twizzlers or whatever you do and get ready to watch the movie. But with that said, man, let's talk about this upcoming game. Obviously, I think somebody in the chat already asked about it. You know what I'm saying? We got FAMU coming into Prairie View this week. Talk about just, man, some of the keys to victory in this game. Obviously, FAMU, you know, you got to be really upset if you FAMU, obviously, because of the game at Alabama A&M moved to the end of the season. You don't have any playoff opportunities if Jackson don't drop 2 games, right? So essentially they on an anger tour right now because they ain't got no postseason, right? You know what I mean? And so they already took care of Texas Southern, you know what I'm saying, like grandma with the switch, right? You know what I'm saying? So how does Prairie View, you know what I'm saying, come into this game, and how do they get a victory in this game against a FAMU squad, right? That showed that they can roll, especially in the air, this on yesterday, when of course, right, if we've seen, that's been one of the most difficult places and difficult units, right, to get in order on this team this year.
I think the biggest thing, to me, I keep saying the sound. People say it's coach talk. Stop the run on the way to the quarterback. Then once you get to the quarterback, get that joker to the ground. Don't have big plays on special teams, which Florida A&M has a dynamic kick/punt returner. And other thing, you got to be able to run the ball against them, and the longer and the better you run the ball against them, the more time Mr. Richardson spend time over there watching his cheering on his defense.
Yes. And I think one of the keys is that it went down the game before, but last game we kind of inched up on our penalties. We got to play with discipline. Don't let them get in your head. They're going to be here talking a bunch of trash. The fans are going to talk trash. And we got to be able to run the ball, but their defensive line is pretty stout. So maybe running directly at them could get them, but you need to use them a taste of their own medicine. They need a little eye candy out there, and when they over pursue, you need to be able to try to catch them and that kind of thing. But you got to minimize the mistakes because they're a momentum team, and once they get momentum, they really get things rolling. And then when you start pressing, their defensive backs are good enough to make you pay. And then, when you give up on throwing, then they pin their ears back and they're pretty good at stopping the run. So that's going to be the key to victory is you don't play out of sight of what you can actually, like Coach Bubba likes to say, is you got to do your job and not look over at the next guy, but do your job. And a little concern I have is our defensive back coach came from FAMU, so they might know his scheme pretty good. That's pretty good concern there. But hopefully we can, not let them run free like they did on Texas Southern, and that'll definitely be. But minimize penalties and mistakes, and let the ball fall where it falls.
Hey, you got to get the shirts early. That's done. So you got to wait for 2025 now. You late. You know what I'm saying? You late. All right. That's for the early comers. All right. You ain't really believe. You feel me? So I have, man, we got two questions in the chat before we get up out of here, Coach. One is Chris is asking, man, why can't this team seem to play to a consistent standard? I mean, how do you deal with that just from a coaching standpoint? You just talking about the defense, for example, defense side of the ball with your guys, your squads. How do you get guys to play to a consistent standard so there's not, even if there's some fluctuation, there's not big drops, right, and big gaps between, that play?
Oh man, consistency just comes from repetition. Maybe doing the same thing over and over in practice. The word is the same from the top to the bottom, bottom to the top. So if you talk to one coach, you're hearing the same thing from another coach. So it's not mama said no, let me go see if daddy tell me what I want to hear type of stuff. So it has to be everybody on the same page with the same idea. I think part of it today is gelling. If you're not super talented, you got to find a way for guys to gel and come together. But I think one of the things that made us so special at Prairie View when I was there, especially as a defensive coordinator, we would bring guys in and pretty much all of them sit out. And then the next year they start playing a little bit, spot recruit, and we could develop some, look, man, this is the way we're going to do stuff. Everybody knew that I was going to call the defense. It was almost like Coach Frazier was the head coach, but Coach Northern got the defense, Coach Brian got the offense, and they got the final say-so unless it's something major going on. Where now these guys are so in and out of programs, it's hard to develop chemistry. One
Mm.
thing I would do with my guys, my players couldn't eat in the cafeteria with headphones on because you got to be able to communicate with guys when you playing defense. The other thing I would tell them, you can't fuss at one guy and the next guy do the same exact thing, and you have to be an equal opportunity uh fusser, I would say. You got to take corrective criticism, no matter, even if it comes from a guy that ain't played a lick all season. If he telling you something right, it's right. So I think you just have to be, like I say, consistent, and it sound crazy, but it's got to be redundantly consistent to the way you hearing the same message. And like the standard is the standard, as they say. This the way we gonna do it, and there's no other way. And if you don't like it, sit on the bench and cheer on somebody else.
No, that's definitely facts. I mean, I think one coach said it, when I was talking to him offline too, is like, it really is the small things, right? Because
It's the
if
mosquitoes.
what I'm saying, if you don't deal with the small things and like say, hey, listen, and you consistent on the small things that it never changes, but it's the same all the time, that's how you start really building the program, building the culture, right? But if you haven't, man, just drilled home that these, like you say, ants and mosquitoes, right? That these things are gonna be this way, it's gonna never change. So you got to deal with this and you got to address these things. Then you talking about the big things, right? But all the big thing really is a bunch of small things that
Yeah.
came together anyway, right? So, I mean, I think that makes a lot of sense, man. I think
I
one more
think
question.
one more.
Go ahead.
Oh, sorry, my speaker went really loud.
I see here, Coach. How do we address the flaws up front? Is it a talent program or a development problem? That's from 12, from BB 12.
Man, be better. Man, it's during the season, you just got to keep repping stuff, and you have to get them to see it. So my big thing is just say we about to play Richardson, who's a athletic quarterback. He ain't the fast, but he stays alive. My biggest thing, just say for my pass rushers, we're not gonna rush past this guy on a consistent basis. So you're gonna have to learn what technique can I use to, number one, keep this guy contained and keep him from getting under me. I might have to play a smaller defensive line, but if you do that, then you probably gonna end up giving up some draws or some running plays. But you go into the game with a game plan. The pass rush game is going to be, now you may have to do some more stunts and stuff, but I think the biggest part of it is getting the best that you can up front. Do you go the transfer route or the high school route? And both of them had a positive negative. High school route
Yes.
now is a tough way to go because people want you to win yesterday. The transfer route, people say it's the reason why some of them jokers transfer.
Mm-hmm.
Is what do you do? But in season, we gonna work on certain things, and it's almost like if I tell if this the pass rush that we gonna use, and you do something different, come over here with me, partner. And one of my players that played for me at Grambling and Prairie, he always say this: them jokers understand pain and playing time. So which one you want to deal with?
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
Yeah, I like
yeah.
that.
Kerry, any thoughts from you, man, regarding this consistency, man? How do we get this team to be consistent? Chris Harris said he feel like we got a different team week to week.
Yeah, and one thing I did notice is, and I don't know if it's discipline reasons or performance in practice, is um, we look at other teams and the starters, pretty much still be the same, and the core group kind of still be the same, but sometimes we kind of move them around a little bit. And I know sometimes performance is better for others in practice, but it's kind of odd. You do get different things week to week, and I know the transfer thing can get you because it's kind of like when the Miami Heat brought all those superstars in, and they couldn't beat nobody because
Yeah, yeah.
chemistry wasn't there. And so we got to do. I like what Coach Northern said. You in the cafeteria with your teammates. Don't be doing the headphones. Y'all talk to each other, kind of know how this guy moves, and then you kind of have a better idea what he's going to do when the bullets start flying. Some people are going to duck. Some people are going to stand up and start swatting the bullets down. So you need to know which kind you got next to you so that you can know what to do, when the battle comes. And I think that's kind of a thing we run into, and maybe, yeah, like Mr. Campbell said, maybe we got to start getting back, because I'm telling you, man, woof. I don't know if you guys seen North Crowley play, but boy, I wish we could get some of them guys. You talk about speed, and
Yeah.
not just speed, but their aggression and the swagger is just. I see how they beat DeSoto, and nobody thought they would. Those guys are, they're not the biggest, but they're monsters over there. And I'd like to see us get back to that kind of grit, kind of like, well, you can't see it, but I got some old Blackshear stuff playing with the KJ Black in the background. And those defenses had some real grit when we had to really count on them. And that's what I'd like to see us get to. Maybe we need to flip more truck tires, or, get in the pit, different things like that. But I think that would help it.
Let me tell you something that might happen though. So sometimes, like you may, as an athlete, you may take things for granted. So, but they know they got their hands full. And I may have mentioned before, sometimes if you fighting somebody, they got some hands, you're gonna come in a little bit more prepared so you don't get embarrassed. So sometimes playing against better teams gonna make you step your game up. You're gonna listen to your coaches more. You're gonna stay more in tune to the film study and different things like that, because if I don't do what I'm supposed to do, this thing might get ugly as unasked around here. So they may, especially I would say on the defensive side of the ball, the offensive line side, those guys are the ones that really gonna have to step up their play. You'll get exposed out there if you're not coming in there ready to play some football by those guys. So, like I said, you look forward to they knowing they playing against somebody good, so they gonna bring their A game and see what happens.
Yeah,
hey, man. Listen. Well, first of all, before I'm in my comments, let me say to EA, if you thought last year's preseason blitz was something, wait till you hear the 2025 blitz. All right, you ain't even seen nothing yet. So, but you're gonna have to wait for that one. All right, you know what I'm saying? Got at least wait till the season finish. But if you thought that was something, your AD gonna really want to get the shirt that we make next year. All right. So I just want to say that. Balfour said defense needs to make more tackles. Is that simple? Yeah, we definitely. Hey, listen, it's hard to get guys off the field, especially on third down. We talked about that South Carolina State game, right? You know what I'm saying? So that's one thing that we definitely got to do. I think. Listen, this is one thing that I was thinking about. Even earlier today, having conversations around, right? Is there's guys that's proven themselves and proven that they can play. Again, you talk about South Carolina State again, even using that thought process. There's guys who coming up from that D2 that's shown that they can play, right? A lot of times that's different than getting guys even from FBS who look at having the potential to be good guys, but haven't actually proven it on the field. And I think that's something that, again, goes with your evaluation and kind of how you're looking at guys, how you're ranking guys that you're going after, right? Who has shown that, right? We can go through multiple HBCU schools right now this year and see guys that's making impact and see that multiple of these guys are D2 guys who come up to D1 HBCU, D1 HBCU ball players, right? And then what Mr. Campbell's saying, to build a culture, right? Culture isn't just when I as a leader, right, tell my people in my organization, in my downline, how we gonna operate. Culture is also when somebody else in my organization that has already been taught what the requirements and what the standard is, turns to the next person and helps them to understand that's not how we do that here, right? And so this is why, to me, having people come in from bare minimum, right? We talk about the same thing when we have a conversation about changing the athletic department, period, right? Or changing the culture of even PV fans, period, right? What we all talk about is starting at Panther camp, right?
Yes.
starting with freshmen. You know what, we talk about that because that's how you build a culture. Because them freshmen turn to sophomores, sophomores turn to juniors, juniors turn to seniors, who turn into alumni, grad students, etc., who then turn around and say to the people behind you, which makes it easy for you to solidify this thing that you have put into their mind, right? And so that's why you gotta have people coming in high school that you're building with over time, not because you're never gonna go in the transfer portal, but because when you bring people out of the transfer portal, if you're the only one that's drilling home to them what's required here, you don't have yet a culture yet. You see what I'm saying? That culture is there because of others who are there, who are also saying the same exact thing that you're saying when they're not necessarily in that leadership position. And to me, that's why it's important to also be able to go in that route, man. And hey, Jared talking about hoodie. Now we can do some nice stuff with hoodies next year. So hey, listen, we got some conversation we gotta have, but you already laying it out. So EA, man, make sure now the hoodie's gonna cost more. So EA, make sure now you talking about your athletic director at FAMU. I know she got the bread. If she don't, we got Coach Campbell in here. I know he's a fundraising king, so we can make sure y'all got the money to go and buy the hoodies that we about to produce for the 2025 season. But we're gonna come bigger and better than next year. Because if you thought we was big and bad and made a bold claim this year, listen, wait till you hear next year's claim. All right, just wait till you next year. Ain't nothing stop around here. I don't know what you
ain't scared.
I don't know what you thought. I don't know if you thought. We don't get quiet or we get louder. All right. He said they need some boards in their life. Said our defensive line packages are off. Linebackers are not taught to read. DBs don't know where to be in coverage. Joseph Kelly, that's his thoughts. Coach Northern is here. He's the D aficionado, right? You know what I'm saying? So I don't know if he would agree or disagree, but he can correct all of us if he wants to. He said we got to get the QB situation figured out this all season. Yep. Prime changed the game. Nobody getting a chance to develop culture when people like Chinnisberry could win the Celebration Bowl his first year with transfer. Well, I mean, what's your thoughts on that? EA makes a point here, right? You know what I'm saying?
So
those were his guys.
First,
you can't look at the South Carolina State situation like anybody else's because they played for him already. So he brought a bunch of guys.
That's what I'm about to say.
And what people don't know, his quarterback left from wherever he was, went to another school and came back to him when he saw the grass wasn't green.
Yes.
So you can't look at Coach Berry's situation like anybody else because unless you bring in a D2 guy that's running a pretty good D2 program that can bring his players with him. So I would say
how many players he brought to South Carolina State too? I mean,
no.
Probably talking about.
I think 7 of his starters on defense came from Benedict.
Yeah. So I mean, you talking about multiple players from his program coming up, which is no different than we see on other schools, other coaches going from FCS to another FCS power. They take most of their players over too, but this is not nowhere close to the same, right? This is not transfers like completely new guy. This is basically you picking up your organization and taking the whole thing over to another building, right? You know what I'm saying? Like that's what we talking about over here. It's a completely different thing. Listen, I already told y'all them shirts ain't going nowhere. First of all, they still alive. Y'all talking like the shirts ain't still alive yet. We still got a shot. Y'all are tripping. All right. We still got the chance around here. All right. They ain't going nowhere. They still listen. One of them hanging up right there. All right. So make sure y'all support Prairie Football Alumni Association Christmas party. Yeah. Make sure you send me the flyer, Brandon, so I can make sure I put that up next time. But hey, with that being said, we didn't want to be on here super long, man. Listen. Prairie View over FAMU this week. All right. I ain't got no score. You know, I ain't got no score. It ain't gonna be 58. It ain't gonna be 52-28 though. But I ain't got no score. But PV over FAMU. All right. You know what I'm saying? We getting the job done. B Bell. B Bell told me we beating FAMU this week. I believe in Brandon Bell because he's a 2009 champion. So you know what I'm saying? If he say it, I believe it. All right. But with that said, man, we're gonna get out of here. He said, of course you don't have a score. Listen, I can't tell y'all everything now, Mr. Campbell. I can't. Y'all want me to feed y'all everything? Y'all want me to give y'all everything around here? I can't give y'all everything. All right.
You tell Mr. Campbell we going chicken foot shopping this week. So Don't worry about it.
Listen,
Hey,
I'm gonna find
hey,
my belt that I lost before the Southern game, and we're gonna be back in action as soon as I find my KJ black belt. All
hey,
right.
I'm going home. Well, I may go home tomorrow for a couple of days, so I might see if I go to my wife's hometown if they got some chicken feet over there
See,
somewhere.
there you go.
Hey, Mr. Campbell. All right, listen now. All right, we got too many Southern people that went to Prairie View. People from Southern Louisiana that went to Prairie View. All right, you bet. Hey, if they get it together. But nah, man. Hey, listen, we don't do that over here. Y'all gotta take that to B channel. Y'all gotta take
Well,
that to
you
B
just turn
Northern.
your head.
Y'all gotta
There
take
you
that to
go.
B Northern. You know what I'm saying? Maybe, hey, listen, maybe the HBCU coaches corner allow y'all chicken foot over there. We don't do no chicken feet over there. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, Coach Cole cool with it. He'll get a chicken foot.
He'll get a chicken feet. He said, "Can I get a shirt when I come to the game from Florida?" How many times I keep telling you the shirt? No, PV people can't get a shirt no more. Okay, you had to get the shirt early, all right, because you're not a real believer. But don't worry, sweatsuits coming
Can't
soon.
even get a change.
2025 sweaters coming soon. All right, you know what I'm saying? All right, but with that said, man, we're gonna get out of here, man. You know what I mean? For y'all, look at she said go to Scalens.
Oh
See,
yeah.
she already told us where to go. I might make a detour on the way.
All right.
Oh man. All right, man. Listen, we'll holler at y'all until next time. Bye.